I had some buddies, I still have some buddies that want to get into duplexes and stuff like that. And they can't finance, or they think they can't get money. And I said, there's always ways to get money.
Welcome to the House Hacking Success Podcast, where you'll learn the path to free rent and financial freedom through real estate. Featuring your hosts, Brad Labrie and Drew Klingler.
Welcome to the House Hacking Success Podcast. My name is Brad, here with my co-host Drew.
What's up, Brad? How's everyone doing?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Today we got a great friend of mine, Grant Snyder, on the podcast. He's an investor. He's a real estate agent, but most importantly, he's been house hacking for the last 7 years. He's going to talk to you and I about his wealth of knowledge in the industry and how you can do it as well.
Yeah, Grant is very experienced in house hacking. He's rented out to college students. He's going to talk about his experience renting to college students, what it's like renting out individual rooms, and his process for that. He's also going to talk about how being a real estate agent has improved his investing.
And Grant, on top of all that, has a 9-to-5 job. He's going to talk to you a little bit about how using a local bank, which he worked for, to get creative with his financing and how that local bank gave him so many things that most big banks wouldn't.
Yep, and a little bit about what it's like to have a 9-to-5 job and be a real estate agent.
Absolutely. I think you guys are going to really, really enjoy today's podcast.
Yep, it's a good one.
Without further ado, here's Grant.
All right, cool. Welcome to the show, Grant. We appreciate you being on here.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Like I said, this is a new experience for me, so happy to share what experiences I have, and hopefully that can help someone listening or watching.
For sure, man, for sure. So I know a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about how you got into real estate, house hacking.
I'll start just with a little background. Both my parents were teachers, so education was always important to me. But outside of that, my dad did a lot of real estate. He had his license, didn't use the license that much, but he had a group of 3 or 4 friends that had quite a few properties in the greater Lansing area. So I always saw that growing up and just kind of had that entrepreneur mindset. And so then when I went to college, kind of got hit with, hey, we're pregnant. And so that's kind of where my first house hack came from, was just I was forced to find a living situation for my then fiance and I.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And where was that house at?
That was in Big Rapids. So I was in my freshman year up at Ferris State. Like I said, got hit with the, hey, you got to be an adult sooner than you planned. And so we found a house, single family, 3-bed, 2-bath, finished basement, pretty nice neighborhood. And then we moved into that, and it was me, like I said, my then fiance, and then her mother. And so they were both, I owned the house, and then they were both paying essentially rent in a way.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So just renting out rooms, a house hack?
Yeah, essentially. And so, like I said, her mother lived there, paid me a portion of what I would call rent to help pay for utilities and stuff like that. And then once we separated, they moved out, and I had a buddy move in with me that was actually going to Ferris State at the time too. And so he just kind of filled that void for that income portion of it.
Very
awesome.
Cool.
Yep. Awesome. And in a sense, saving a ton of money and saving able to save whatever you make from your job.
Yeah, basically. And so I actually got set up. I was helping coach basketball at the time, and the manager of a local bank approached me and said he had a job for me. And so while I was going to Ferris, continuing my education, I worked as a teller and then moved my way up in the bank a little bit. And so I was working at the bank, saving what I could there. I had my buddy paying for half of the house essentially. And then my dad basically said as long as I was in college, he'd pay for my housing. And so he was paying for that portion of that. So I actually had no housing expenses at that time.
That's awesome, man.
Free rent. Yeah. That's great.
Yep, absolutely. And so just to backstep a little bit, when I did find out I was having my daughter, to finance that first house, we actually pulled out a home equity loan on my parents' house. And so that's how we got that house.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, so did you pay for it? You took out a home equity line. Did you pay for it cash then? Or did you still finance a portion of it?
Nope. We took out home equity. I think it was the house was $70,000, took that out of the home equity and just essentially paid for that house in cash. Yeah.
And for someone not familiar with the home equity line, what would that look like?
Yeah, so my parents, I grew up on a lake here in Michigan, and they still live there. So they had their lake house, and I don't think it was paid off. I don't know 100% of the finances on their side, but essentially, a bank's going to be able to loan you up to 80% probably of the value of the house, and then you can take that 80% and subtract whatever they still owe on it, and that's how much the bank is willing to give you. And obviously, they were able to pull 70 grand out of that house, and we had a $510 payment on that. So basically, took that out, paid for the new house in cash, and that was our house payment on that new house was $510.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's great.
And roughly what year was that?
That would have been beginning of 2012, like January or February of 2012.
Awesome. That's a great time to be in the market.
Yes. Yep. No, it was good. And so we bought that single family residence, but like I said, I had a variation of different people living there at different times, paying me rent. I wish I could remember how much, but I mean, it was $300 or $400. And so, like I said, my dad said he'd match the difference. And so he was just paying, $100 or a couple $100 a month to pay for my portion of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, that's just, I mean, I look back at that and think, I still have some buddies that want to get into duplexes and stuff like that. And they can't finance, or they think they can't get money. And I said, there's always ways to get money. That's, fortunately for me, I had parents that were good financially and have this house and they could take out equity on it. But some people never think of that, and I paid them for that, and I've paid the money back since. But that's just a creative way where I couldn't go to the bank and get a typical loan for that single family residence. I didn't have any credit to my name, but working with my parents and getting that equity loan allowed us to get that house.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yep, absolutely. So, and that kind of spurred everything in motion from there.
Exactly. And where there's a will, there's a way, right? And
right.
I know I've used a lot of creative financing as well, and that's that's a point of entrance that a lot of people get blocked at, is financing.
Yeah, absolutely. I go look at the house and I find the deals, and then I figure out how to buy it after that.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yep.
So you're renting to mostly students. What was that like?
So yeah, after that single family, well, not after, I shouldn't say. I was still living there. I had my buddy who I knew from high school. He was a student, and so he rented from me, technically a student. And then while we were living there and I was working at the bank, I found another property, which would be my second property that I ended up buying. And that was purely a student rental. Found it on the MLS. It sat there quite a while. Not a lot of interest on it. I'm not really sure, but I saw opportunity. Brought my dad up just because going forward, I mean, we were basically using that home equity, and so he was going to be my partner. Brought him up to Big Rapids, showed him what we'd be working with. Needed about 25 grand of work. Converted a half bath upstairs into a full bath. Converted a weird little kitchenette they had up there, tore that out and made that a fourth bedroom. And so then we turned it into a 4-bed, 2-bath, which in Big Rapids, if it's zoned right, can be 4 students, and they can be paying you per room.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And what is that zoning? Was it zoned right, or did you have to go before the local municipality and get that changed?
Nope. So it was zoned. There was R1, R2, and R3. I forget the technicalities. This was R2, and I think maybe some people didn't really understand the zoning, but R2 says there can be up to 4 unrelated non-family members living in that unit or that house.
Awesome.
And so that's how we were able to do that.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, when you get to zoning and you try to pick out where you want your rentals and stuff like that, Big Rapids, you have to pay for your rent certificate and you have to be in the right zoning, and they come and inspect it every year. But other than that, they're super lackadaisical compared to like some of the Lansing areas and stuff that I've not personally had rentals in, but I know from being an agent, people just bang their head against the wall trying to deal with these ordinances and stuff like that. But Big Rapids was very lackadaisical in a good sense. They took care of it, and then they just kind of allowed you to, as long as you were keeping your property up, do what you wanted to do.
Awesome.
Yeah. So what'd you rent those rooms out for each?
So we bought that house for 60,000. Like I said, we put about 20 grand into it, and then we were able to rent those rooms out at $375 a piece.
Okay. Did you just do a flat rate, no utilities, or was utilities split among the tenants?
Nope. So everything, 375 was just their rent, and well, I paid the city bill, which would be water, sewer, and trash in Big Rapids. So I was paying that. Other than that, cable, internet, heat, electricity, lawn, snow. That's all. That was all their responsibility.
Okay, cool. I like that.
And
How were the leases written up? Did you have them all sign the same lease, or because you're renting individual rooms, did they each have an individual lease?
So it was one lease. Looking back on it, I'm a better investor than I am a landlord. I'll say that up front. And I'm still learning with my triplex that I live in currently, and I've gotten a lot better. But it probably wasn't the best lease in the world, but it was one lease. All 4 students were on it. That way, if one dropped out of college and skipped town, the other 3 were responsible for that portion of the rent still.
Okay, yeah, add some accountability to the other guy, or
Right. Yep. And I never had anyone have a problem with that.
well, that's good.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So now that you're in this triplex, what was the transition to that? What was the process to that? And how did you finance that deal?
So there were some other houses in between that one and this triplex, just another rental property up in Big Rapids, and then a single family home that I tried to live in and flip, and kind of lost some money on that one. But this triplex was basically just financed regular as you would finance any other house. It was it's a 30-year fixed rate mortgage through the bank that I currently work at, but will be leaving soon. And that was something I wanted to mention too. You guys talked about financing and stuff like that. The bank I worked at in Big Rapids, and then the current bank that I work at right now, both are local small town community banks, and that's a must if you want creative financing. They make exceptions, and when I say they make exceptions, like they literally, if they know different situations, they will make exceptions, and then they note that for the auditors, saying, this isn't normally what we would do, but we're making this exception because. And at the time, it was because I worked there, and they knew that my income would be good. But so normally, our program at the bank currently that I work at would be a 30-year fixed rate for a duplex, 1 to 2 unit. But they made the exception and allowed that financing for 3 units. Because normally, over the 2 units, I would have had to have a business loan or commercial loan on this, which would be 20 years, and I would have had to put 20% down. But I was able to only put 10% down on this.
Wow. So how would a normal individual approach a small town bank and try to get creative with them? Would you have any suggestions for them?
Yeah, I mean, you really just have to approach lenders, and if it's your first home and you don't have much experience, it's a little harder. But if you've been doing it for a little bit and have some references to work that you've done in the past, so now I could go to a small town community bank and just show them my rental history and all my landlording history and such, and they might be able to work with me on something to make a deal work, because that's ultimately a bank's making money by lending money out. They get interest off that money they're lending out.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they profit. So they want to lend you money. It's just finding the right situation where they feel comfortable and aren't at too much of a risk. So basically just go talk to a lender.
Awesome. Now, I know you're an agent. What was the inspiration to do that? How was the transition? I know I am as an agent as well as an investor, like you. How has that transition been for you? And I'm sure it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love being an agent. I've been reading a lot of things online as an investor. I just thought I wanted to be an investor. I didn't want to deal with being an agent. And then, the stereotypical articles. Should you be an agent if you're an investor? Yes. Some people would argue yes. Some people would argue no. I read that back and forth. And then eventually one day, kind of a local family friend, he'd had his broker's license for quite a while, but he was starting a exit franchise here where I live, and he got talking to me, and so he really convinced me to get my license and made that final push for me to take my class and pass my test. And originally I just thought, hey, I'm going to be investing, uh, kind of work the agent side on my deals that I do, one or two a year. That will pay for my license, and it's worthwhile having. But I've since done a lot more with clients, and I've really started to enjoy being a buyer's agent, being a seller's agent, and just kind of the agent side of everything.
How has it impacted your investing? Has it impacted it positively?
Yeah, I would say it would. I mean, it just gets you, um, in the right mindset. So, this morning, I got looking around because my fiance, my daughter, and I are looking to maybe make the transition out of the triplex here soon, getting married next year, and thinking down the road. And so we're thinking maybe we want to get into a single family house here soon. So I was looking today, and then a foreclosure popped up on the MLS. Got looking at it, and I'm like, let's just go look at that. I mean, it's getting to be a nice fall afternoon. Don't have much going like we do in the summer. I said, let's go look at that. I said, I'm meeting with these guys at 10. Let's schedule it for noon. We'll go show that. Don't have to call an agent. Just boom, pop right over there. And it just keeps me in that investor mindset instead of sometimes where if I saw that foreclosure, I'd be like, well, I got to call an agent, and then they got to see when they can get into it. And it makes everything so much easier.
Yeah, less friction.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
awesome.
And it just allows me to know more about what is going on. I don't have to rely on someone else to answer my questions. I can pull up all the MLS information. I can understand what the taxes are. I can understand, just pretty much all the information's right there at my fingertips, and I can get that without having to go through another party.
That's great.
Now, I know there are probably a lot of people like you and I that want to travel a similar path that you are right now, where possibly house hack for a little bit, get a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex,
Right.
and then eventually transition to a single family home to raise a family and have a wife and kids and whatever.
Yeah.
What do the numbers look like now for the triplex while you live there? And what will that cash flow look like once you move out and into a single family and you get someone rented into the unit you're in right now?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that is a very popular path. I mean, if it was up for me, it was just me. I'm seeing if my fiance's around. If it was just up to me, I'd probably house hack the rest of my life. I don't mind it. I've since that very first single family home we talked about in Big Rapids in 2012 until now, so that's 7 years. I've not had a living situation where I've not had someone paying me money, whether
That's awesome.
whether it's a roommate or like in this triplex or something like that. So it's just kind of in my nature, and I don't mind
It's awesome.
it. But yeah, the numbers right now on my triplex. So I have a downstairs unit. It's the whole downstairs of the house. It's actually about 950 square feet. So pretty big unit, has high ceilings.
Awesome.
It's very comfortable for us right now. And then there's two units upstairs. One is a 2 bedroom and one is a 1 bedroom. Currently the 2 bedroom rents for $650 a month. And then the 1 bedroom, just finishing the remodeling now, have a lady moving in October, and that will rent for $525 a month.
Awesome.
Uh,
Awesome.
so right there, and then when we move out, our unit, haven't really thought about it too much yet, but hoping to get about 775, 800 for our unit.
Awesome.
So all in will be 1850, $1,900 a month on this unit, which again got a 30-year mortgage. I think principal interest. $650 a month roughly
Okay.
to make the mortgage payment and everything.
Awesome.
And then taxes and insurance on top of that. So I'm hoping to be cash flowing at least about $500 a month out of this
Awesome.
property.
That's
Awesome.
Yep, once we move.
Which will directly help you with whatever overhead you have at your new house, which is awesome.
Absolutely. Yep, it just flows right into that. So, I thought about just like I said, I'm a better investor than I am a landlord. But I've run the numbers on selling this place after we move, just because my unit, when we came into it, I put about 15 grand into it, all new flooring, all new kitchen, just a lot of work into it. But it just doesn't make sense when you run the numbers. I mean, long term, it's in the community in which I live. It just would be silly to take that cash flow and just take a quick profit and not take that cash flow. And I guess some people have to look at priorities. I could probably sell it and clear 45,000. But when you think about it, they're paying my mortgage down, and that mortgage is not my money. My dad always says, you're using other people's money. And that's what we've always said. And that's kind of our philosophy in our investing, is just using other people's money. It doesn't cost us anything to have that mortgage, and they're paying it down, plus giving us some on top of that.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yep.
That sounds like you have a great investment there.
Yeah. Yep. And that's really moving forward. The Big Rapids student rentals that I had were a good experience. By the time we were all said and done, they were cash flowing fine when we had them. But with some of the ways we financed them and got creative there, we had some debt. So, excuse me, when we sold them, it's not like I was cash rich and had all this money to spend. We just escaped out of there with some extra cash and some good experience. But it's really this triplex that I hope to hold on to and kind of start that real foundation to gain other rentals and create kind of a rental empire, if you will.
That's awesome.
There you go.
Now, real quick to step back, what was the process like searching for a multi-unit again? Something that you were really looking for cash flow, and what was the process like getting into this deal? How old is the home? Some of the inspections, some of the things you had to do.
Yeah, so this house I'm in right now was actually for sale by owner. And so that was absolutely crucial, being that I was in I bought an old farmhouse basically, hoped to live in it, had a roommate, so I was house hacking again. And then I was hoping to fix it up and flip it. Turned out that I was able to do that, but I didn't really profit any. It was just kind of a wash. But for me to buy this triplex, I had to sell that. So this sale on this triplex was contingent on my farmhouse selling.
Awesome.
And unfortunately, the farmhouse it was late fall through the winter kind of. And so we were really struggling with selling that farmhouse. And luckily, because it was for sale by owner, and I kind of knew the owner, he was able to work with me. And it took 4 or 5 months for us to actually get under contract, get my farmhouse sold, and then get this ready for us to move into.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Another sort of creative financing, right? You were able to work with the seller to delay the process a little bit so you could get that sold.
Right. And had he had that on the market, it would have been gone quick. And fortunately for me, it wasn't. And he just appreciated my communication. He wanted to do it all himself. He appreciated that I was willing to work like that. I didn't have my license at the time. So it was for sale by owner, and he wrote up the contract. I had it run over real quick by a local attorney in town. No problems there. And we just made a deal. So, again, just another creative way to look outside the box. It was in pretty rough shape. I have some before and after pictures. The unit that we live in now, there was hoarders in here. Trash up to the ceilings, and no new floors. It was basically the old wood baseboard floors that had been painted over. My fiance looked and she's like, "How are we ever going to live in here?" And I said, "Trust me." I said the layout is perfect. It has high ceilings. It's going to be gorgeous once we get it done. And so I think that had a lot to do with it as well. And he had college students up in the 2 upper units as well too. So I think when he showed the house, The bottom unit was nasty, absolutely horrible. And then upstairs was 5 or 6 college basketball players, and so they were loud. And so I think people just came in and saw it and got scared.
Walked
And
up.
I just could see it. Yeah, I could kind of vision that value added that I could put into this unit and then the upstairs units as well.
How long did
It kind of shows the vision that you were able to create through the other deals, even though maybe that flip maybe didn't give you monetary value. I'm sure it gave you confidence and vision.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that's helped me on the agent side as well, is taking people through houses and trying to show them where value can be added. Just because right now there's a lot of houses on the market that, just the way the market is, they're inflated in price a little bit. But if I can show people that, there's a closet behind this bathroom that you could easily turn into a half bath or something like that, get some value and then increase the value of your house. I mean, people really appreciate that. And it's amazing to me just because that's how my mind works. But a lot of people can't see that.
For sure.
How long did it take you to get everything moving ready?
Once we're under contract, I mean, I had to get moved out of the farmhouse because I had a family buying it. So I was under a time crunch. That was last June, and we totally renovated everything in 30 days.
Wow,
awesome.
While we were like trying to semi live in it, it was.
Did you do it all yourself?
For the most part, yeah. And that's the other thing too is, you can hire a general contractor and do it that way. And I've had success with clients doing that. But really, I kind of ran that portion of it, kind of general contractor / let's see what we can do, my fiance and I, and some help from my parents. Let's paint, let's rip these cabinets out, let's put the new cabinets in, stuff like that. But then we put in the kind of floating laminate, wood look laminate there. And while that's not entirely hard, I was working a full-time job and I didn't have the time. So I just posted on Facebook. I went and bought it from Lowe's. Anyone want to install this for me? Guy said install it at $1 a square foot, which is unheard of. And
awesome.
We're in business. Yeah. So for the most part, yeah, we did it all ourselves. But, with working a full-time job, I had to get creative with finding people to kind of come in and do it.
Yeah,
but
so you just went to Facebook.
Yeah, sometimes those alternative routes. I mean, some of the plumbing, I have a local plumber in town that has a business and they do nice work and he's always right there on the spot. But outside of that, yeah, just going to Facebook and finding handymen that, I mean, once you find someone that you can trust, they're usually going to do it for cheaper and they'll work their butts off. You find handymen that know what they're doing. I mean, that's a good route to go.
Yeah, it's really good to know. When you are trying to find tenants, do you use Facebook as well?
Yeah, solely Facebook. I posted the 1-bedroom last month, and I posted on Facebook Marketplace, and I had about 50 messages within a couple days.
Yep.
1-bedroom apartment, Olivet. I live in Olivet, Michigan. It's south of Lansing. It's actually a college town, but it's a really small college. So you get a lot of college kids looking for a 1-bedroom. Plus, you get some people that are commuting to like Lansing to work as well. So I had a lot of success with Facebook. Really never needed to go outside of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my experience too. I had 65 messages on Facebook and never looked anywhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Some people get scared with investing and having that mortgage payment on a duplex. Maybe what if I can't find tenants? Maybe I'm biased, but I've just never had that problem. I've always had people trying to knock down the door and get into these rentals. I mean, I don't see not being able to find tenants.
Especially since you rehab them, and as I've seen a little bit of your work, you do really good work. You put out a quality room, and him and I do as well with all of our units. And you just get a good quality tenant, and you never have an issue. I've never had an issue. I know he hasn't either. We're in good markets as well, but just with finding tenants, kind of like you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you screen them, obviously, but yeah, you just put a good quality product out there. Honestly, all the stuff that I did to my unit, our unit looks, I mean, my fiance is an amazing decorator and helped out a ton. But the flooring, cabinets, nothing in our unit is high end, but the way that we stage it and the way that it looks very high end. So when we move out, getting 800, if not more, for this, it's technically a 3-bedroom, but really a 2-bedroom unit. I don't think I'll have a problem for getting that. And you know what? It's being a little bold on some paint colors occasionally, doing that. It's being a little modern, white cabinets, gray countertops. It's knowing how to make that unit look desirable.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep.
Now, going forward, I know you're an agent as well and an investor, and you got a new career you talked a little about. What are some of your long-term goals? I know you're potentially moving into a new house with your family. What does some of that look like? Are you gearing up to become a full-time agent, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in limbo. We'll see where I'm going. Like I said, I have a new career, full-time position that I'm taking that significantly increases my pay, which I'm excited about, obviously, because more money. But I'm also excited because I'm hoping to just live like we've been living and take that extra money, start storing it away, and then wait until the next opportunity. I can't say I'm actively looking for a rental just because I am looking maybe for a single family house, and
Awesome.
buying both really isn't in the cards for me right now. But I don't want to be one of those guys where the market's going to crash. But I do think it will take a dip. And right now, my biggest goal is to just save up cash, and when I find opportunity, just jump on that. I don't know what that opportunity will be. I'd really honestly love to find a flip, just because it's a little different. I think it'd be a good experience, and some quicker cash versus the long game cash flow might be nice for me as well right now.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is that so that's a 9 to 5 job?
Yep, I'll be working, and that's what I have now. But like I said,
Okay.
just different opportunity, big career step for me. And yes, it's a 9 to 5 job, and so I've always had a 9 to 5, but it's just in my nature, I guess, to when I get out of work, I'm working real estate and trying to find deals or working the agent side of things. And
Do you find it difficult to work with clients as a real estate agent with a 9 to 5?
well, some people, I don't really position myself as an agent any less than a full-time agent because, frankly, I mean, I'm working an office job, and not that I want to be working real estate on company time all the time, but if someone calls me and I'm at the office, I can usually either answer or quick text them back, or
Okay.
we don't work as a team in our real estate office, but we're all from the same community. We know each other, so if someone needs to help me out and run a client to a house, no big deal. And with technology and everything, I've just always had enough time, I guess. And
Awesome.
So we'll see with this new position, but I'm hoping that I don't have to back down too much. I mean, I think at first I will, but I'm just really starting to enjoy the agent side of things, especially listings. I mean, if you're an agent out there, it's all about listings. I mean, it's one, easier. You don't have to run buyers around all the time. It's two, you have the chance to get both sides of the deal because you're taking the listing, so you're going to get that 3%, and then you have the opportunity to try to bring in a buyer. And then three, it's marketing. I mean, I use high-end photography on all my listings. It makes you look like an agent that's well put together. You know what you're doing, and people just flock to success, really.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
That's great.
Awesome. I'm sure you've got a lot of contacts and connections from being an agent as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's just opened up a lot of doors. If you're going to use your license and you like real estate, I think it's a no-brainer almost. I mean, it's just fun for me to have my license, honestly, because I never know the next time someone's going to need help. And I mean, next thing I know, it could be $150,000 house. Excuse me, sell that, and after my split and everything, that's $3,000 paycheck or something like that, and that's all from probably writing up a contract for a friend that wants a duplex or something.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. So it's just been a way to really boost my income outside of the rentals and the 9 to 5 kind of.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Sounds like you're a hustler like we are.
Oh yeah.
I like it.
Well, we
That's
try.
Yeah.
You might have just convinced me to get my license.
Well, I always joke with people in my office because the phone will ring and we kind of rotate who answers it just because you never know what the lead will be. And we always joke, well, is that the $1 million house, Colin? Who's getting the $1 million listing? You know, you never know. It just could always come through. Just like my mom sent me a lead from a teacher that she used to teach with. She's retired now, but this teacher's going through a divorce. And so they had lunch, found out they were selling the house, and boom, next thing you know, I'll have a listing up here in the next week or so for about a $375,000 house.
That's awesome, man. Good for you.
Amazing.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Absolutely. And that's not even saying anything credit to me. Like, that's solely, that lead came from my mom. I mean, obviously the friend had to respect me enough and trust me enough to list her house, but that's just because I have my license.
So just word of mouth.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I do marketing as well, a lot on Facebook and stuff like that. And that's been fun for me too. I have my degree. I have my degree in marketing, and so that's allowed me to kind of get back to some of my like marketing roots and really use Facebook and social media in like a true marketing sense as well. Whereas if you're an investor, I mean, you're not really marketing anything. Maybe your properties when you need to sell them or when you need to rent them out. But as an agent, like, it's all about getting leads.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
Now I know you read a lot like we do. So what is some of your favorite business book in particular? Maybe not real estate related, but business or mindset or.
Yeah. So that was a tough one for me just because most of them are real estate books, but I went back to, it's actually not a business book. I think might be in the self-help aisle if you went to Barnes and Noble, but it's called Mind Gym. And it's by Gary Mack, and I read it in high school actually. I played a lot of sports in high school and just was kind of a hothead in a sense. And so Mind Gym is just really, he's a sports psychologist, and it just takes your mind and it totally reworked how I viewed everything. And I think I read it junior year, and senior year I was just a completely different athlete in terms of just staying calm, cool, collected. It just changed how I view life, business, everything, competition. I'd highly suggest it for any high school athlete or college athlete or anything like that. But I think it can translate a lot to business as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. What's your favorite real estate book?
It's the foundation. It's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's if you're in real estate and you haven't read that book, then you just have to. That was when I found out that I was having my daughter. I don't know how I came across that book, but I came across that book, and at that time I was not a reader. I'd read my college textbooks when I had to, but I wasn't a reader, and I picked that book up, and I think I finished it in like 3 or 4 days. I mean, it just sucked me in. And then after that, that's when I found the first single family. That's when I found the opportunity for the next student rental. That book changed my life. I'll tell you that much.
It's same here, man. That was one of the first books I ever read in this game as well. Incredible book. Kiyosaki is an incredible author as well.
Well, yeah, and I go back to the basics, and so many people are misinformed about housing and houses and stuff like that, and just, like, that's why it's so hard for me to go look for a single family right now, because like I know that's a that's a liability unless I'm house hacking and bringing in money. That's why I've never had a house where someone isn't paying me rent for 7 years. It's a liability, and that people just don't understand that. And so anything that I do, I'm trying to have it be an asset, whether it's a rental or, that's why I picked Exit when I was looking for a brokerage, because, we can sponsor people in, and then we get 10% of their gross commission if they're one of our sponsors, not out of their pocket, but it comes from corporate. So, I think of my sponsors that I sponsor in is almost like rental properties, because anytime they sell, that's money that I'm getting that's passive income. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, Robert Kiyosaki, man, defining an asset and a liability, it's crazy that I never thought about that until that book.
It's something so simple too, and you're like, how did I not even know this? And then you read the book, and it's just eye-opening. It's amazing.
I try to explain that to friends and family, if they're looking to invest, I try to get that investor Robert Kiyosaki mindset. If they've not read the book, I try to really explain that to them and make them understand, that you can be buying this lake house and you could even get it for a good value and then do some renovations and have some equity in it. But at the end of the day, that's not gonna get you ahead in life. I mean, that's not a great buy, probably.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, Grant, we appreciate you coming on here. You added a lot of value. The whole house hacking concept is changed our life. I know it's changed your life.
Yeah,
and it sounds like you've been doing it for a long time, man. 7 years, kind of hustling. No matter what you were doing, you always had that idea. Probably the same way I did with Robert Kiyosaki and house hacking and his books that really just changed our lives altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, there's not been a time in the 7 years and I've lived 5 different places in those 7 years, and it's always had a roommate or tenants or something like that. So yeah, house hacking definitely has changed my life. And I'd leave you with this as just an agent and knowing that the financing is easier and is there. If you're looking to get into real estate in any shape or form, buy a duplex, live in one side, rent out the other, change your life. Absolutely, will change your life.
Absolutely, man. And as a last question before we get you out of here, I know you're an agent in Lansing and Grand Rapids area.
Yeah.
How can someone get a hold of you if they're looking for an investor-friendly agent or just some advice or get some insight on the market? Because those two markets there are great markets in Lansing and kind of Grand Rapids area, and I know you're down a little bit south of there. But how can somebody get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk to anyone, whether they are a client and we go out and try to find them a duplex or something, or whether they just want to get some information on the investing side. But Grant Snyder, SNYDER is the last name, and Exit Great Lakes Realty. So if you look that up, Facebook's usually the easiest. I post quite a bit on my page. I'll post investing stuff, but I'll also do a lot with the single family. But Grant Snyder, Exit Great Lakes Realty. Look me up. Like I said, I'd just be happy anytime anyone wants to talk real estate. I don't care if it's gonna bring me any type of monetary value. It's just good to keep educated, good to keep these connections right here. You never know when the next deal is going to be out there.
That's awesome, man.
Very good.
That's awesome. We appreciate your time and we appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you, Grant.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Good luck with everything you guys do, too.
Yeah, and good luck with that house you go check out later today.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, guys.